Okay. Good afternoon and welcome to Mela America podcast. Today we are going to be talking to someone very important who has been on Humphrey program, who works at Boost, and he will be sharing with us the journey that he traveled from the start of applying for the Hubert Humphrey program up to the time that he came back. Now I'm going to ask him to introduce himself and tell us about himself at the beginning.
Thank you, Naomi, for hosting me. Let me also take the opportunity to thank the U.S. Embassy for inviting me to join you this afternoon to talk about my journey and experience as a Fulbright Hubert Humphrey Fellow. I work for BUST as the Director of Student Registry Services or Academic Services. In other organizations or universities, my role is that of the Academic Registrar. So basically, I oversee the university's academic life cycle from pre-entry through to post-graduation, also serving as the hub or the engine of the university's academic administration. I'm glad to be with you this afternoon, and I look forward to a fruitful and enjoyable conversation with you. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much, Donna. And I believe before you applied for the Humphrey, there must be something that attracted you to the program. What exactly did you want to achieve or you're looking forward to achieving from this program?
Thank you, Naomi, for the question. To be honest with you, I think prior to applying, let me put it this way. I bumped into the Humphrey Fellowship by coincidence, to be quite honest. It was an evening and I was going through my Instagram and I saw this advert popping up for me and I took interest. But immediately upon seizing the opportunity or also seeing that this could be an opportunity for me, I took a moment to reflect, to say I have been leading our university's academic administration system for quite some time. I have done a lot in terms of leading in program and policy development. I have been there from the formative stages of the university, and I have led the university's student recruitment really, the entire registry machinery since the first cohort to today. And I saw this as an opportunity for me to take a step back, reflect, and see how I can better prepare myself, for the next stage of my professional career. So I saw in this program an opportunity for me to reinvigorate my career, because spending time in practice, especially those of us that are on the practice side than on the academia side of university system, the way we go about our work, we hardly have a chance to practice, research, innovate, and bring it into practice. So we practice, and never have a chance to take stock and see how we can better ourselves. Of course, besides the professional development opportunities that the organization or university can do. So I saw this as an opportunity for me to take charge of my professional development and use it as a vehicle to, lay the groundwork for the latter stages of my professional career.
Okay, thank you so much. Obviously, you got into this, you saw the advert, then you started the application. As you were working on the application, were there any surprises, any challenges? How did you deal with that?
Okay, I was excited about the application for starters because I believe that we were a good match. The program and I were a good match. So I strongly believed in my potential to succeed in the application process. And so the elements of surprises really, I would say, were the multi-layered application process. So it is not like a one-stage application where you apply for something and then you immediately get an outcome, and then that's the end of it. But because of my enthusiasm and my desire to succeed through the application, there was never any moment where I had said to myself that this is getting too much. So every application phase, really, I faced it with the same enthusiasm as I initially started. I think the latter stages of the application process, you would remember where I was now the preferred candidate from Botswana, and I was informed that now your application process is now going to the final stage in the US, where there is still a selection process for the slots from our country. And I was like, okay, this is quite exciting. So that element of it was a pleasant surprise, I would say, but I was also still confident in my ability to succeed also on the very last stage of the application process.
How about you take us a little step back? You jumped to I think it's the fourth or the third selection stage. After you submitted your application, what happened next? Were there other stages in between before you were actually told you are selected?
Oh yes. If my memory serves me pretty well, from the after the first application, I remember we had to do, and you will help me correct me here. We also did the English language proficiency exam, IBT or TOEFL.
Internet-based.
Yeah, internet-based TOEFL. So, I mean, that as well. We also had to, take a bit of time waiting for the results. Even after the results were in, the stage was still not final, because you were still told that, okay, now that you've completed this phase of the selection process, wait for the outcomes and we will inform you of the next steps in terms of this application. So I think for me, that also taught me the selectivity nature of the application process, that the way the application is set up is designed to identify the most suitable, most prepared, most deserving candidate who will be able to exploit the full opportunities that this program has to offer. So every part of those selection stages were still elements of excitement, for me, to be quite honest.
I like the passion you used to explain the patience. Do you remember how long it took you to get to know the final outcome?
It took a while. I think we started round about mid-year, somewhere around mid-year. Mm-hmm. And by the time I was informed that now this is it, I'm now the selected candidate, I've passed through all the stages, was end of April of the year in which I traveled. And I think I had about 2 months to prepare to travel. So yes, I had to be strategically patient, because as with everything in life, patience is a virtue.
Mm-hmm. So it took you a while going through the selection process itself, but at the time of the preparation, the time was very short, about 2 months.
Absolutely. Mm-hmm. But I think, even with the time being short, in fact, at the time, I think I was informed that you had just received that feedback from the US that have now passed the final stage. But I think the nature of the process as well also allowed me to keep my supervisors at work informed. So they were quite aware of what was happening throughout, such that despite the short notice of it, to an outside eye, they may see short notice or a short turnaround time, but the nature of the application process allows you to carry through your supervisor's work such that they are with you and on board, and then that short notice does not appear short to them. As you recall, one of the key requirements in the application is that you have to submit a recommendation from your immediate supervisor. So it goes without saying that they would be part of the process,
Okay.
which I think I was grateful for.
Can you remind us, if you still remember, what the requirements for one to be accepted for a Hubert Humphrey Fellowship is like?
Right. I think there were a couple of key elements. One, which I think for me was the single most overriding one, was that you need to be on a leadership track, be at mid-career level. That's number one. Be in a leadership track at mid-career level. Number two, you need to have significant public service experience. This can be either in the direct form of working in the civil service, or that your work by its nature has elements of public service. And also what you do on a day-to-day basis at your workplace, you need to have some elements of community impact. So I think for me, these three key pillars are what I recall that I had, that were required from the program that I had at the time, without doubt. And I can also further add to say that the nature of the application itself was such that you must be able to demonstrate the impact that the program, or the impact that you will make on your community, be it organizational, society, or national level, that you would bring back from participating in the program. So it was a combination of both what you are bringing and what your outlook looks like, because it's not just about participation, it's also about what do you intend to do to give back, to ensure that you magnify and multiply the learnings that you would have acquired from the program into the society that you serve.
Thank you so much. Two other things that you could have remembered probably was that you need to have a bachelor's degree.
Oh, yes.
And plus 5 years of work experience, of course, and a substantial role in policy development.
Right.
Yeah. So now you are selected, you prepare, you get to go, you are in the US. What happens?
Wow. It was a whole new world. I think for me, what also was an advantage for me was that it wasn't the first time that I had lived abroad. So in terms of the adjusting or acclimatizing or the cultural shock, I did not experience it. As I recall, my colleagues from some Asian countries were experiencing, because some of them, it was their first time outside their country and their first time in the developed world. The welcome reception was phenomenal. It was phenomenal. Our host made sure, both on the professional side and also on the community or family host side, they did amazingly well to ensure that we settled in pretty well. We acclimatized, we knew our way around town, campus, such that when the formal program starts, we have our toolkit ready. So I think in terms of the support that we received upon arrival was simply phenomenal, and I couldn't have asked for a better welcome reception, because within the first few days I already knew who were the key people that I'll be working, engaging with, who were the key people that would be supporting me, and supporting me, yes, outside the program as well. And the nature of the welcome reception as well was in a manner in which allowed us to know one another as colleagues within a cohort in a single campus. So I couldn't have asked for a better reception immediately on arrival.
I want you to break down for us who you are referring to, the hosts. We know that there are universities, there is an administrative institution for you that is also giving support. There's also the US Embassy, us on this end. Can you just break down the different roles of these entities when you were in the US, how all of them were playing their part? If there's anything that you were feeding back to the US Embassy, and how we're using that, how it was helping you.
Great, thank you. One, there was the family host. Already we were matched or paired with family hosts. These are families that have been part of the program for a significant number of years. They were familiar with hosts interacting with internationals. These were professionals that had already, others, some had retired, or some were at the twilight of their careers, and they wanted to give back to society through supporting the Humphrey Fellows as they undertake their journey in the US. That's one, and I had a fantastic family host. And I'm sure Moagisi Mogalakwezi, if he's watching this, you'd also recall the fantastic experience that we had at the hands of the Steinbecks, who were our family hosts. There's also our program administrators. Our program was based in our College of Education, and it was a team of 4. They were taking care of the professional side, but because of the nature of the program itself, they had a strong relationship with our family hosts, such that there is no gap in terms of support that we could fall through the cracks at any point. So that was that as well, and they were our primary point of contact throughout our entire program. And of course, there was the U.S. Embassy, back home here. I remember, we stayed in touch up until you were quite informed that I had settled in pretty well, which was very reassuring, for me, despite my experience having lived and traveled abroad. I think the fact that there was all of these key loops of support around me ensured that the support system is one that is meant to ensure that you are set off on the right path towards, success. But also, I think this can also depend on the level of initiativeness of a participant, because I recall that I think you had given me contacts to the mission in our embassy in the US. So I initiated contact just to make sure that they are aware that I had arrived, and I look forward to interacting with them, because the nature of the program, there's significant travel that I believe that at one point I would be interacting with them. So I think in terms of the key contact within my support network, I had settled in pretty well, and I felt that I had enough support to ensure that I start on the right path.
And I remember that during that time, we had excellent posts coming out from you about the work that you were doing, and how you were interacting with your other fellows, your family host, together with the university counterparts. Now let's talk about program planning. Were there any surprises from the time you planned your program, you submitted your application, to the time that you are now in the program and experiencing it? And is there anything you would have loved to change?
I think it goes without saying that when you coin your program, before experiencing it, and what you encounter would be completely different. In my case, I had 3 clear goals when I coined my application, and I would say those were the formative stage of putting together my program.
Do you mind sharing them, by the way?
I will, yes. One was looking at a policy and a program development, and 2 was looking at the role of higher education in, driving efficiency within the organization. I was also looking at strategic stakeholder engagement, because I believe that this formed the 3 key elements within my skill set that I believed, should I participate in the program, they would be honed enough such that when I return, I'm able to make better impact, give back more better in a way that I can also see sustainability of the impact that I'm making. But upon arrival, surely we had enough time to revisit our programs, and I think that our program goals. And I think that was one of the good opportunities that I think the way our program was structured allowed us to, to revisit what we wanted to do and blend in with what we were seeing to see what better program goals can be organized for much more impact. So what remained was strategic stakeholder engagement, remained a key priority area. I then moved towards more on the business operational efficiency side, as I believe that was more focused, and the immersive experience that I would get, I'd be able to focus on that element. Because I think one of the key things, I wanted to make sure that I have a clear goal of what I wanted to do, what I wanted to see, what I wanted to experience, and therefore that gave me a clarity of goal. And the other key component of my program as well was looking at the role of leadership in creating an engaged campus, because I was beginning to see that the way my host campus, being Penn State University, despite its sheer size, it was organized in a manner that promoted an engagement. And I began to see that if I'm to focus on this more, I'll be able to glean a lot more that I can take back to my organization, my community. The other key element that I then decided to infuse was around internationalization. Because, to me, I said to myself, now that I had now left my country, I'm resident in the US for about 10 months. I am internationalization. It isn't foreign to me. It's my being, and therefore the way I go about my engagements, the way I go about my program, should represent the values that society or Botswana would expect from someone in a foreign country who espouses to communicate the values, the vision, the desires and aspirations of Botswana. And I believe I did, that pretty well. So I was able to hone my program pretty well, such that when I now finally put it together through our coordinating office at our college, I was now clear in terms of now what do I need to do to ensure that I'm able to achieve this. And of course, I didn't know how I need to navigate the entire system. And that's where now our coordinating office came into play to ensure that they help me navigate the entire resource system within the university to ensure that I'm able to achieve the objectives for which I came for.
So you did all these things and they sounded very busy, very serious. Did you have some fun at all?
I did. Honestly, I did. I was very clear. My mission was professional, and I wanted to make sure that I get the most of it. But despite my mission being professional, I did have enough time to travel, to enjoy, because whatever I was doing, even the travels that were associated were courtesy of the program, I still found ways of seeing or enjoying the fun experience in them. But besides some of those, our program organized amazing excursions for us to travel, see some of the landmarks around the US, have opportunity to socialize, have fun outside the program. We went camping, we went fishing, we did all sorts of amazing stuff courtesy of our program. And even beyond the activities organized by our program office, we also had the family hosts who from time to time, they would get us all together, hear our experiences, hear our life stories, hear about what drove us to want to pursue this program, and just make sure that we also get acclimatized to the American way of life in a way that we would not have had we not traveled and lived in the US. So there was plenty of fun in the program.
I've heard other Botswana go out there and come back and say, hey, there's a lot of volunteering there. And sometimes the way they speak, it's as if there's no volunteering in Botswana. Would you share the same sentiment to say there's real volunteerism in America than it is in Botswana?
To be honest, I did share part of that view when I was there, because the level of exposure I was having to volunteering, see them volunteer, and the importance they attach to volunteerism, made me want to ask and understand more. Why is it that the Americans view volunteering the way they did? It was part of giving back. It was part of giving back because each and every one of us, each and every one of them has a unique skill set that they can give back. And I remember at one point, I learned through someone who quantified the value of volunteerism to society in, I think, billions of US dollars from the simple hour or 2 hours that somebody can commit to. But also in the spirit of giving back, it grounds you, it brings you back in touch with society, because by nature of life, we are not all endowed the same. And it was through that we were able to touch the lives of others, either directly or indirectly. So in volunteering, for me, it was about understanding this value and saying, if this is something that we could adopt also as a society, I mean, there is volunteering in Botswana, that's for sure. But if we could also elevate it a little bit more, we could actually positively affect the less marginalized. We could also improve some of the common public services that we as professionals in our different spaces, either through our professional talents or the mere giving of our time, can help make our society better. So I did appreciate the value of volunteering, and it's one of, I think, the key lessons that I came away with, to say, in our own individual spaces, be it personal, professional, organizational, you can do so much, even as one person, to give back to the next person, whether cameras are there or not. And by the way, most of the volunteering that I participated in, there were 0 cameras.
Yeah, I wanted to ask, was there any time in your program that you've had to participate in community service or volunteerism? And yes, you answered my question, whether there were cameras and were there media coverage for such kind of activities?
No, there wasn't. There wasn't. I mean, that was just the power of the way they had organized that volunteering. I spent some good time on a weekly basis with I think it was the State College Food Bank. They received donations from, well-wishers, organized them nicely and gave them to the homeless or the less fortunate. I also spent some time, there was a Christmas program that I participated in. It was organized by the Marine Corps, and they were giving back, organizing toys in a toy drive to give back to, to kids from less fortunate families. I mean,
were you not curious why there's no media, there are no cameras like we see it happen here?
I know, because I was quite curious, but I then, assumed.
Like did someone explain? Why did you ask? Why is this not covered? Why isn't this not public?
I remember, the way the publicity that they would do would be in the form of, giving out the number of communities that are able to positively affect as a result of those initiatives, but not necessarily the act of giving. And for me, that was a key distinction, to say, in the moment or act of giving, it is most heartfelt when it is personal, it is a personal touch, and there isn't any media coverage to glean or extract the PR that may be associated with it. But the PR that I also saw was also in driving home the message that, the more you can also support these organizations through, whether monetary or in kind, you are able to contribute to the drive to make society better from the, the communities that were being affected by the volunteering that I saw. So, for me, it was quite interesting that they did it without the media outlay. Not that, in Botswana, it may be wrong. Maybe it just happens to be our approach to do it that way. But I thought that the way they were doing it over there was an approach that I thought, was much more impactful, and also allowed the recipients to have dignity in the act of receiving service.
Thank you. Now, in terms of elements of the program, we've talked about community service, we've talked about the support from host families and the academic institution itself. Can you talk about coursework? I know that when you go on this program, you also have to identify a skills gap. And what happened when you got there? Did you continue with what you wanted to do? Did you have to shift? What exactly did you do?
The starting point for me was my program goals. What did I want to achieve? So our coordinators made it very clear that the world is your oyster. It is up to you to select the courses that you want to do, as long as you believe that they would add value to your objectives. So because I was on a more leadership track and focused on key elements that were around leadership and administration, I immediately went for courses within the business school. I did graduate level courses in global strategic management, strategic leadership as well. I then also I wanted to situate now leadership within the context of higher education. And because of the sheer size of Penn State's course offering, there was exactly a course tailored for me in the form of administrative leadership in higher education. It was also a graduate level course. So I pursued this because I believed that they would complement the skill set that I was taking there and help contribute enormously to the realization of my program objectives. So I did the courses in an audit mode. An audit mode is one where the courses are not credit bearing, but they allow you to be formally recognized in participating in the course, but you don't get credit. But you are registered on the course like any other student, and you participate fully in terms of your classwork and also your assessments like any other student. And I took full advantage of those courses to ensure that I used them as a vehicle to achieve my program objectives.
I've heard other people say or ask, at the end of the program, do I get a transcript for the work that I have been doing? Do I get a certificate? What's your comment to that?
Right. In terms of coursework, I think it depends on the way the program is organized at each campus. If my memory serves me well, each campus organizes and runs the Humphrey program very differently. There were my counterparts in Vanderbilt University, in Tennessee, right? Yes. Also in education campus. Their program structure was such that the courses were credit bearing. And I also remember some of my counterparts at Syracuse as well, in New York. Their courses were credit bearing. And there were other campuses, such as mine, which were non-credit bearing. So, but the key thing for me was not just the transcript, but it was about what am I getting from this. But still remember, at the end of the program, you still get a full credit in the form of a certificate, for your participation. So in terms of valuable paperwork, which I know as Botswana Society, we still value that certificate that we have in paper form. We still got one.
So how would you assure someone who wants to be on the program, but their superiors feel that I can't send you for 10 months and not come back with a degree, that they will still come back with something?
Professional development takes shape in many forms, or takes place in many shapes and forms. One of it is through, of course, the formal program that certificates you in a credit-bearing mode. The other could take place completely without any paperwork, but the level of exposure gives you so much experience that you bring back and you diffuse that through the organization and the people that you interact with. Because remember, some of this also is within your own small professional setting within an organization, but some of it also takes place beyond the small organizational unit you work for, but throughout the entire organization, where people begin to want to learn from your experience, whether directly or indirectly. But also some people also get aspiration from you, and that can also have a positive boost on their morale, motivation, which also now have a positive impact on the bottom line. So it's more than just the paperwork. I think for me, the valuable experiences are not on paper. They are in the form of the impact that you leave on the people you interact with on a daily basis. And also, on your customers that you serve, the people that you serve. Are they able to live with a better smile? Are you able to take some of what you learned to positively help drive the organizational vision and mission? So I would say, yes, it may not be in the form of paperwork, but some of that value lies in beyond paper.
I like how you elaborate more around professional development and the impact that one can make than coming out with a form of paper, the value that we might be giving to the paper itself. Now I want us to come back home. So you leave the US, you come back home, you interact back in your institution and other people in the country. How did we receive you back? And how did you start making the impact of what you brought, make us feel that you are back as a different person?
I'll start first by saying, before we left, we participated in a program called the GLF Global Leadership Forum that brought all participants in the entire cohort in the US. I think we're about 189 from about 56 African countries. No, 56 countries around the world.
Not 156.
156, yes. It must be 156, yes. Yeah. I may not be sure on the numbers, but every participant in the cohort, we were brought together under one roof. One of the key messages was they wanted to ensure that we have the toolkit to re-acclimatize back to society, back to the communities we were coming from.
I like that.
Because it is a given that US is different from any other society. And the impact that we were having, however short the period was, we still had to come back to the society that we left, that still knew us in the way they knew us. But with you coming back with the hopes, aspirations, and passion and desires that you have to make an impact, that may not all be rosy and cozy when you come back. So that program, the reason why I'm singling out that program is that it played a very instrumental role in preparing my mindset, as I believe that of all other participants, to be aware that your journey back may not be as smooth as you think it will be. And therefore, you should expect that you will face resistance, you would face support. There will be elements within your organization, society that want to give their all to you because they want to see you succeed. But also that, not everyone would want to partake in ensuring that the learnings that you have can make an organization better. But sometimes it's not just about the individuals, because sometimes I think we see resistance as individual, but sometimes the nature of the organization itself. The organization at its underpinning, it's driven by culture. That culture is the way we do things. And sometimes it is that way we do things that then becomes an impediment. And it wasn't easy. It wasn't easy, I must say.
How hard was it?
It was hard, no. It was hard. It was hard. But remember, you went there for a purpose. And you're coming back. And when you face obstacles, the question is, what do you do in the face of obstacles? You need to apply what you learned to navigate your own society, your own organization. And I think that's what also helped me to navigate my environment better. I did not see obstacles as obstacles or roadblocks, but I just saw them as opportunities for me to redefine what I want to do, re-engage more. You remember one of my key objectives when participating in this program was engagement, strategic stakeholder engagement. And I had to dig deep in applying that I've learned to ensure that I navigate my organizational landscape in good times, in bad times, while remaining focused on the impact that I believed that I want to make. And I'm not taking away the hardships. I think they were part of the process that I'm to expect. But I believe that we are different as individuals. Some may see the obstacles and say, why bother? If there's so much, resistance, there's so much challenges, why bother? But I think for me, it was about, but I know that I can give back. I know that I have something to contribute back, and therefore, it does not matter the challenge that I'm going to face. I will still find a way. And I think that has been the way I've been, navigating my environment ever since I came back.
I really admire your resilience. And I know that since you came back, you have been working very hard, cultivating on some of those networks that you established while you were in the US. Can you tell us about those partnerships, what you have done since you got back? How has that helped your work, your organization, and probably your other stakeholders?
I think, like I said, one of the things that I decided to do to adjust my program goals when I got to Penn State, I decided to adopt internationalization as a being, as a value. And the relationships that I was establishing, either within the academic sphere or beyond the academic sphere of my program, I saw them as a vehicle to giving back to society, because I knew Botswana's vision remains to transition its economy to a knowledge-based economy. And Penn State being an R1 university that is also at the forefront of research and innovation, I said to myself, let me bring some of that value back. I would say there has been a lot of successes in that front. One, there's already an established MOU between BUST and Penn State. That is a direct output of my participation in the program. But beyond MOU in paper form, there is work on the ground, between researchers in Penn State and BUST working collaboratively on areas of common interest. But also beyond that, I was also able to establish, networks with my peers. Because you remember that one of the program objectives is professional affiliation, and I want you to talk to that as well. The professional affiliation as well. It exposes one to, people in your sphere of work, line of work, so that there is a direct relationship between, it's on a peer-to-peer level. So some of that as well, I've been able to gain a lot of that, the learnings from my exposure in my professional affiliation, to bring back. One of the key aspects of my program was about business process operational efficiency. That continues to be the way I look at things. I continue to see how can we get efficient, how can we navigate the environment in which we operate, in which there's less funding, there's constrained funding, there's public pressure on universities to demonstrate value to society, and how can we continue to situate our role within the broader context of where society is going. So some of those relationships continue to be a sounding board for me. And but in terms of the partnerships, the relationships that I have brought back, they have also gone beyond my university. They've affected both some of the public universities. Now there's also, Penn State reaching out to UB. Penn State is also reaching out to, Buang, in one form or shape. There's also been active programs, with Technical College, as as a result of, my participation in the program. But those are just some of the the successes, but there have also been failures. Because there have also been a number of other initiatives within the internationalization space that I wanted to pursue that never came to fruition. And I accepted that to say, I think in the context of time and moment, that could not have succeeded. And therefore, we are proceeding on other initiatives that I wanted to work on. But it's not just Penn State. Many other professionals from different universities that I've interacted with want to come to Botswana, want to work with us, because I think it was in me that they saw a potential of a country. And therefore, the desire to want to associate and partner with, BIUST and Botswana remains, very high. And now, by the way, I also found an interesting, I would say, coincidence that there was a developing interest in Africa that I saw from most of the universities that I was associated working with in the US. And, Botswana, for its main advantages that it had, I could not help but also sell the Botswana story to say, in Botswana, you will find valuable partners, especially within the space of knowledge creation.
I can testify that you've done a good job coming back with those many partnerships that you've established. Your last words, what would be your last word to someone who is looking at the announcement right now, who is thinking about putting forward their application?
This program is a career reboost. I want to single out the professional affiliation because the nature of the program allows you to, or gives you an opportunity to identify an organization within your line of work that you can work with. And I was extremely fortunate to work with Western Carolina University and also the registrars at my own primary campus being Penn State. And the manner in which I identified my professional affiliation was from participating in a conference that was also funded by the program. So in terms of the opportunities that the program gives you, they are limitless. They are limitless. The very first conference that I participated in the program, in my first session, I was able to establish a relationship with the speaker in that program. And from that contact, I was able to now secure my professional affiliation. So I would simply say the program gives you so much resources and opportunities that it is basically up to you how much you want to exploit these opportunities. But the program lays the foundations for you to want to grow yourself, but also grow beyond yourself, but give impact to the society that you serve. Thank you.
Thank you. I like the way you end it. I always like it when we are talking about giving back to the society, what impact you can make, what leadership role are you playing. So thank you very much for that insightful discussion. I wish you all the best in your endeavors as you continue to use the experience from the Hubert Humphrey program. And to our listeners out there, I do encourage you to look at that application form, do whatever is necessary, but if you want tips, please come back to our Dumela America podcast. Listen to this and hear what the impact it has made on one of us from Botswana. Thank you very much, Donah.
Thank you, Naomi. Let me also take the opportunity to thank the U.S. Embassy, IIE, the administrators of the Humphrey Fellowship Program, and the U.S. government for giving me the opportunity to participate on this life-changing Hubert Humphrey Fellowship Program. Thank you.
Thank you. The pleasure is ours in building our Botswana-America relationships. Bye.